Hey, I decided to make this quick video explaining some of the misconceptions around crypto wallets, how the funds are being locked by different passwords or pins, whether the wallet can be a secret, and others. So stay tuned. We'll go through some of the explanations about the blockchain, the crypto wallets, and different passphrases or pins. Remember, everything what happens in crypto or that happens in crypto is recorded in the public blockchain that is shared between various computers who verify transactions. And if transaction is verified, it is then added to the blockchain again. And so it creates this ledger. So all of the funds, all of the wallet addresses, all the transactions are stored in those public blockchains. So there is no secret of where the funds are or the secret wallets, etc. Because once the transaction happens, that wallet address shows up on the blockchain. So how does a typical transaction occur on the blockchain? So the user initiates the transaction by opening a wallet application, whether it's web or desktop or mobile, and adds necessary information such as recipient address, the amount they want to transfer, maybe a memo, which is important because some of the wallet addresses are actually exchange addresses, and memo identifies your individual account within that exchange. So if you don't specify it, the funds are going to go somewhere else. So it's very important to specify the correct destination where the funds are going. And remember, so those transactions are irreversible on the blockchain. So it's very important to have that. And what is the wallet address? I will talk about it a little bit later in this video. But essentially, it's a hashed public key that is then used to verify the signing of the transaction with the private keys. And I will explain the concept and the difference between private and public keys. Remember, it's very important to understand that mechanism so that you don't get yourself in trouble. So what happens next? The wallet application collects the transaction details and then interacts with the blockchain. Why does it need to interact with the blockchain? Well, it needs to verify that your wallet address has sufficient funds in it. And remember, the wallet itself doesn't store any funds. It's just a set of private keys. All of the transaction and the funds are recorded in the blockchain. So the application then needs to go and verify through the set of ledger information or ledger entries in the blockchain to see if your wallet received the additional funds in the first place that you can then send it over to. So after that information is fetched and verified that the your wallet has sufficient funds, what the application does, it compiles the recipient address, the amounts, the fees, other metadata such as timestamp, optional memos, etc., into a hash. A hash is basically a one-way function, a mathematical one-way function, where given the set of inputs, you can create a particular output, usually just an alphanumeric string, which is very long, and it's mathematically impossible, or actually cryptographically hard, to reverse that string back to the original set of inputs. So it usually uses the SHA-256 algorithm to create that hash. It's not the strongest one, so meaning that there is a way to kind of brute force it and understand what the inputs were, but nevertheless, it's just a temporary step to create that digest that then goes into the signature. And okay, next step is actually very critical. This is where the private keys are being used. This is the essence of the wallet, so to speak. So the private key is a secret number or alphanumeric string that is used to generate a public key and digitally sign the transaction. So the public key is what is then being used to verify that the signature of that transaction is correct. So it's very critical to keep the private key secure, right? Which is why there's hardware wallets where the private keys are typically stored, or if it's a different type of wallet like a cloud wallet, etc. So they have different mechanisms of storing and securing those private keys. Because if anyone can get access to the private key for that particular wallet, and cryptocurrency, they would be able to sign a transaction with that private key, meaning they can authorize the transfer of funds from your wallet address to another wallet address. So the public key itself is derived from a private key using an elliptical curve mathematical function. So it's called elliptical curve cryptography, or ECC. And there is a specific formula where the P equals K times G, which is P is the public key, obviously K is a private key, and G is a predefined generator point on a curve. So ECC, or elliptical curve cryptography, is again a one-way function. So while it's very easy to compute the product of K times G, which is the private key and a predefined generator point on the elliptical curve, reversing it is computationally infeasible or very, very hard, unless you have a very powerful quantum computer, which even right now, no one in the world has it. Even the Google's latest quantum computer still can't crack this. But at some point, maybe like 10, 15 years from now, I think it could be possible. By then, hopefully, they will create better algorithms to protect those transactions. Anyway, so this is a very critical step and kind of explains what is a wallet. Wallet is just private keys that you use to sign or authorize a transaction, which is why it's important to keep that in. So what happens next? So we take the digest or the hash transaction data that was created in the previous steps, and we take the private key that was extracted from a wallet, right? With maybe you have a PIN to protect it, etc. It doesn't matter. And we create a signature for that transaction. And the signature is created using the elliptical curve digital signature algorithm, or ECDSA. Don't worry, you don't really have to remember. I don't remember all of those acronyms and names, but it's important to understand the process or the flow and the mechanism in general, how it works, so you don't get lost. So anyway, and the digital signature is what gets put on a transaction it gets distributed to the validators to verify that the transaction was signed by the holder of that wallet. So remember, the wallet is just a hashed public key, right? So once the transaction is signed with a private key, so the public key and the private key is a related pair. So you can actually derive the public key with a private key, and then you can verify that the signature is correct using the public key, right? So again, the signature is generated using public key, and it contains all of the transaction details, right? And then once it gets sent for verification to the validators, it then uses that public key to verify that the signature was correct. And I will explain that a little bit. So in the previous step, we created digital signature. So digital signature is what proves the transaction was authorized by the private key holder without exposing that private key. Remember, once you sign a transaction, you can derive the public key from that signature to verify that all the information within that within that transaction is correct, right? Because it does have the wallet address, which is just a hash public key of where the funds were initiated from, right? So you use that, you verify that whatever contained in a transaction block, all the information, the amounts, the destination address, etc., matches it can be sort of verified using that public key, right? Everything needs to match. So that's what happens. So that block is sent for verification, like I said earlier, to the validator. So the transaction is broadcasted to the network. to the various validating nodes and that verify the authenticity and validity of that transaction. Again, there's two different concepts: proof of stake versus proof of work. Well, we can touch on that a little bit later, but the point is it goes into this sort of verification. So at the validation step, there's multiple nodes that participate in the validation. That's part of the nature of that distributed sort of ledger, so that you don't have a single node that can be compromised, right? Or easily compromised that says whether the transaction is valid or invalid. Well, anyway, so what happens is they use that signature and the transaction hash to reconstruct the public key using that algorithm that I described earlier, the elliptical curve digital signature algorithm, right? And so what they do is then they check that the reconstructed public key matches the wallet address. And remember, wallet address is a public key, it's just hashed, right? And so they can apply the same hash just to see if the two hashes match. And then the signature then proves also that the transaction was signed by the owner of the private key, because if you sign it with another key, you're just going to get garbage, right? Or the data is not going to match. So, and then they ensure that the sender has sufficient funds. So they explore the ledger, making sure that the funds that were arriving to that wallet are sufficient. Again, everything is in the public blockchain, so there is no like secret accounts or secret funds hidden anywhere or stashed anywhere. And then they also verify the adherence to all the other like. All right. So, and at the last step, once the transaction has been validated and included in the block by miners, if it's a proof of work, or validators, if it's a proof of stake, then the block appears on a blockchain ledger, a public ledger. So once it's added to the public ledger, the transaction becomes immutable part of that permanent record. And the blockchain's consensus mechanisms ensure that all nodes, or the set of nodes, majority usually agree on that transaction inclusion into that permanent public blockchain ledger. So, and that's pretty much the end. Now, this recipient wallet will have a record of funds being transferred to it, which is just, again, an address. And the transaction in the public ledger shows that, hey, these funds were transferred to this particular address. So the address itself doesn't really store, your wallet doesn't really store any funds. So the funds are recorded, and that the fact that the funds were transferred to that address are stored on the public. So why am I telling you all this? Why am I describing the mechanism of how the transactions occur on a blockchain? So that you understand what is the purpose of a wallet, right? So the wallet is simply a private key, and the private key is used both to generate a public key, but also to sign the transaction. And what is the wallet address? Wallet address is just a hash public key, right? That then is used to verify that whatever transaction happened actually belongs to that particular wallet, right? So that's pretty much. So when people say, I'm going to create a secret wallet, well, yes, it could be secretly created, but it will not have any funds. So once the funds are transferred to that wallet, it's no longer a secret, because that address is recorded on the public blockchain, what everyone can see. And that's the nature of it, right? So everyone is able to see and verify that that particular wallet had received specific set of funds. If it's not shown in the public ledger, then there is no way to verify that the wallet has specific set of funds, right? So that's simple. And the other common misconception I hear is that I'm going to move funds off of the public ledger. Yeah, so the way you do it is by essentially converting into like a fiat currency or whatever, selling your crypto on exchange. But there is, that's pretty much it. But there is no way to hide those funds somehow in some secret wallets, or move it into a cold storage, what they say. So cold storage is just when you keep your private keys using a hardware device as opposed to somewhere in the cloud. And we'll look at different types of wallets in the. All right. So what are the type of wallets? And I can roughly categorize them into this three types: the exchange wallet, right, the cloud wallet, and the hardware wallet. So the exchange wallet is usually something that exchange manages internally. You never see it, know it, and usually it's their wallet. And the way they separate the funds between different individuals on the exchange is they use sort of sub accounts that they manage separately. And when you transfer the funds into your exchange account, usually from, let's say, one crypto wallet to another, you need to specify a memo. Memo is what differentiates different accounts on that exchange. That's sort of a typical setup. There may be some variants of that. There's pros and cons, and we'll discuss those in the next step. But anyway, so you when you are working with exchanges, you typically don't think about the wallet. It works similar to your like stock brokerage, etc. You just make your trades, execute it, sell, buy orders, and that's pretty much it. You don't have to worry about signing with the private keys and things like that. Now the other thing is cloud wallet, right? So cloud wallet is a separate address, a separate set of private keys that is dedicated to you, where you can move funds to or transfer funds off of. And then the private keys are managed using the security of whatever that application in the cloud. So, like, for example, you have a coin-based exchange, which may have like its own wallet. Where you make your trades, and you don't typically think about a wallet, the address, and things like this. But there is also a Coinbase wallet, right, which is a separate application where you can store those funds separately, and then you can move the funds in and out of that wallet. And again, when I say move the funds in and out, is basically the transaction is recorded again on the blockchain, that the funds arrive to that address or the funds have been withdrawn from that particular address, and then the cloud makes the management of the private keys sort of abstracted away from you. And then there's hardware wallets like Trezor, Tangent. There's a bunch of them out there. This is where the private keys are stored offline on that hardware device, right? And since the private keys never leave the hardware wallet, basically this method greatly reduces exposure and the risks to various hacking attacks. There is a way, though, to hack it and attack it as well, because typically the hardware wallets are used through a wallet application, which can itself be complex. So what are the pros and cons, right, of different types of wallets? And again, this is generalized. Different exchanges, different cloud application, different hardware wallets will have some of their own nuances, but this is just at the very, very high level. So exchange wallets, right? Very convenient, easy to set up, no need to manage private keys. Exchange usually takes care of all of that for you. And it's integrated with all of the buy and sell orders and portfolio management. So there's like no issue. You don't even know that the wallet exists, right? The cons are obviously the security risks. The exchanges are susceptible to hacks and attacks. Although a lot of them are have implemented very, very high levels and very strong security mechanisms. Obviously, because the bigger exchanges handle a lot of volume of transactions, they become the target of the attacks, because the millions of dollars and sometimes billions of dollars flow through those exchanges, and the attackers obviously want to hack those exchanges. And you don't get any control over the private keys. All right, so cloud wallets, again, available from a variety of different devices with internet connection, so very accessible. The keys are managed by whatever that provider is for that cloud wallet, usually professional cybersecurity experts. So, which means the chances that there's going to be an attack executed successfully against those private keys and something is going to get hacked are very slim. But at the same time, if it's a very popular cloud wallet, again, becomes a target, a prey for hackers to steal those private keys. And again, what are the cons? You dependent on that third party, and you have to trust them. And again, there is online risks because the private keys are stored somewhere online, which means there may be an attack executed to steal those private keys. All right, and then the last one is the hardware wallet. Obviously, the highest security private keys are usually don't expose or don't being exposed online, but they can be, right? Because when you are executing transactions, you're using a wallet application, and the wallet application is usually the online app. Well, it needs to be online, right, to interact with the blockchain. And so there were cases where wallet applications would accidentally log the private keys or do something weird, right? So as long as you trust that wallet application, you should be okay. But or don't ever use the wallet application. Basically, use it as a cold storage. Don't ever touch whatever has been transferred to that particular wallet. Then you're kind of safe until the time when you have to move the funds out of it, and that's when you have to trust that wallet application again. It's more immune to malware and phishing and different hack attacks as long as you don't interact often with the wallet application. It's very hard to execute anything against it. Obviously, your hardware wallet and the keys need to be stored securely. So if you have a physical security for the private keys, that's obviously a way to protect your keys. But if you don't have a physical security, then obviously there is a risk for that as well. The wallet can be lost or stolen or damaged, etc. And we'll talk about mechanisms to recover a stolen or damaged wallet in the next step. So let's talk a little bit more about the wallets that you can manage yourself, usually a hardware wallet or maybe a cloud wallet, and the importance of a concept of master phrase, which is used to recover the private keys, right? So the master phrase is essentially a set of 12 to 24 human readable words representing the wallet's root key. An example could be like, hey, there's apple, castle, orange, bird, whatever, right? And it uses those set of phrases to then regenerate the master private key. And the master private key is then used to generate private keys for different addresses for specific currencies that your wallet supports, right? It's important to understand that as well. Not every wallet supports every crypto coin or every cryptocurrency. There's got to be a specific support, and that support basically means can they generate a specific private key that is acceptable for that particular ledger, that particular network, that particular coin is using that original sort of master private key, right? So anyway, the master phrase is important. It's important to keep it secure as well, just as a hardware wallet, because if you have access to a master phrase, you can reconstruct the private keys, and therefore you can then sign the transaction and transfer funds out of the wallet, right? But it's also a good backup mechanism in case the hardware wallet or the online wallet is lost or stolen. Let's say you can't get access to your online wallet for whatever reason. Maybe that service provider is no longer in business, or you lost whatever password, or your hardware wallet is damaged or lost, etc. Anyway, so that's what the master phrase itself is usually randomly generated using a specific algorithm to make sure that they don't repeat each other. And it's so basically they create a number that is encoded into a list of words using predefined word lists, and then ensure the randomness using this BIP39 algorithm, right? You don't have to worry about this. Just know that the master phrases are unique, and they're unique enough so that they don't repeat ever, right? So now the question is, since the master phrase is usually written somewhere in your notebook, etc., and can be stolen, so you have to have a physical security around it, make sure it's not stolen. Can you protect the master phrase somehow? Yeah, so a lot of the wallet applications, they allow you to enter an additional passphrase. So passphrase, essentially another like word or pin, and let's not call it pin because it's typically used in a different context. But let's say passphrase that is then added to your master phrase to then generate that master private key. So, but again, you have to remember that passphrase. And if you write it down along with your master phrase, then there is no additional security, right? So if you remember that additional word or additional phrase that you're going to concatenate the master phrase with to generate the rest of the keys, then that's good. But if you ever forget that word or lose it or store it in the same way with your original master phrase, then uh, there is a risk for that as well. So if you forget that word, obviously you're not going to be able to recover your wallets. So it's better that you don't lose the private keys and transfer the funds out of that wallet first before destroying that wallet. But then also, if you write it down somewhere where it's easily stolen, then somebody else can regenerate the private keys in the public address of your wallet to transfer the funds out of that wallet to. So, like I said earlier, the master phrase is the key to generate the master private keys, right? Which is, or master private key is important to generate the rest of the keys for your wallet. What they call a chain code, which is used to derive an infinite number of private keys, depending on what your wallet supports for different types of currencies. And typically they follow a specific sort of hierarchical path. But you don't really need to worry about this mechanism. But if you do, obviously do your research to figure out more details. And so the child keys are cryptographically linked to the master key, meaning that the master key can be used to generate the exact same set of private keys if those private keys are locked. And the benefits are obvious for deterministic wallets, meaning that you can generate the same set of infinite private keys using that one phrase is very important, which means you can then easily recover or port your wallets from one application. So keep your master phrase private, right? Some wallets offer you an option to not have a master phrase at all, but then you have to trust that that wallet application is always going to be accessible, always going to be online. There isn't going to be any other issues like government regulations where they lock up the wallets or that particular application. So keep that in mind. I like to have a master key so that I have the portability from one application to another. Consider adding a passphrase as an additional security step. Obviously, don't keep that passphrase together with your master phrase because then it doesn't add any additional security. And don't forget that passphrase, because if you do, then it's almost like losing the master phrase altogether. Generate it on. So just to kind of summarize the workflow, right? So you generate in the master phrase using some random generator. Usually it's provided by the wallet application that gets converted to a seed, and the seed sort of set of words. And then you create a master key. Again, everything is abstracted away typically by the wallet application. That then can be used to generate a variety of private keys for specific or child keys for specific types of currencies. Okay, just some of the key reminders. Don't confuse a passphrase with a device pin, right? So those are two different things. So if you device pin usually protects access to the device which holds the private keys. The device itself doesn't hold the master key usually. It doesn't hold the master key, right? Or master phrase. So if you lose your pin to the device and you still have the master phrase, you can reconstruct your wallet using maybe another hardware wallet or cloud wallet, etc. So it's not that big of a deal as long as you haven't lost your master passphrase. But if you lose the master passphrase, then you're not going to be able to reconstruct your wallet. So at that point, it's important to, before you lost your hardware wallet or lost the private keys, if they're stored elsewhere, like in the cloud, make sure you transfer the funds into a new wallet, right? And then create a new master phrase. Basically, forgetting a passphrase the master passphrase is irreversible, right? As if you lost access to your private keys and you don't have your master passphrase, that's it. Funds are gone. But if you still have the master passphrase but lost the device pin that protects just the private keys, then you can reset the entire wallet, right? You can even use the same hardware, just reinitialize it from scratch using that master pass. Let's keep this conversation going in the comments. If you like this video, hit like and subscribe. If you have additional questions, just put them in the comments. If you have a favorite wallet, hashtag your favorite wallet. If you have a favorite cryptocurrency, hashtag that favorite cryptocurrency in the comments as well. That helps with the YouTube algorithms and will promote this video. Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate your feedback and talk to you soon.